odds-on favorite to become New York's next mayor, dissed the current mayor's plan to do away with gifted and talented. The New York Times today called it a major rebuke to de Blasio. And this morning, Adams even scoffed when CNN asked whether Adams would need to backtrack on de Blasio's school plan if he becomes mayor.
He can't get rid of it until next year. There's a new mayor next year. That mayor must evaluate how he's going to deal with the gifted and talented program. There's nothing to put back in place.
They never had this problem when Cyrus was all white. They never had this problem when Cyrus was all Jewish. Now all of a sudden they see it one too many Chinese and they say, hey, it's not right.
How do you get into those specialized high school? By studying, and studying hard.
Learn to serve the Black and Hispanic kids in your own public schools first before messing with the seating of 3,000 kids.
No more hate! No more hate! Stop Asian hate! Stop Asian hate!
This is such an important, long overdue moment for the Asian community, not only in this city, but the country. If we are honest with ourselves, weeded into the American experience has been always an anti-immigrant and an anti-Asian energy.
Was settled off the coast of present-day North Carolina, where a city named Manteo sits today. Virginia has a city named Roanoke to honor the lost colony. Roanoke was originally founded by Sir Walter Raleigh, although he never visited the settlement himself. Initially, the colony faced many hardships, such as Indian attacks and lack of supplies. It was decided that it was in the best interest of the colony if the reigning governor, John White, returned to England to replenish the colony's supplies. White accepted the mission, leaving behind his wife, daughter, and granddaughter, Virginia Dare. Dare was the first English child born in the colonies, which is still something Virginia takes pride in. As you enter Roanoke Island today, there is a sign stating that this is the birthplace of the first English child in America. When White reached England, the Anglo-Spanish War was underway, which prohibited White from returning to his colony when he originally intended. Almost 2 years later, White finally returned to Roanoke with Captain Francis Drake. However, when they reached Roanoke, they found that all of the colonists had disappeared. All that was left of the colonists was the word Croatoan carved into a tree. White thought this was his colonists' way of telling him they went to live with a nearby Croatoan Indian tribe. The Roanoke colonists had developed a relationship with the Croatoan chief, Manteo, so this situation seemed to be the most likely. The Croatoan island was searched, but none of the colonists were found. There were many ideas about what might have happened. Two of the most common were that the Croatoan tribe killed the left-behind colonists, or that the colonists decided to sail back on their own and got lost. No one may ever know what actually happened to the colonists. Scientists have studied the island, descendants of settlers, and locals to see if there is any DNA connection. Nothing has led to a discovery. If anything, the mistakes of Roanoke led to stronger settlements in the colonies, one of which being Jamestown. Their mistakes taught others in England about preparedness and the harsh conditions they would face in the Americas.
In 1619, English privateer ship the White Lion landed on the shores of Virginia with some 20 captives aboard. Men and women bought in Angola by the Portuguese and then seized by English pirates on their way across the ocean. Upon their arrival, they were exchanged for cattle.
If you go back and look at some of the early legislation that prevented Chinese Americans or Chinese immigrants from coming to America, if you look at the fact that your grandparents built the transcontinental railroad system and they could not ride on those same trains.
The entire southern railroad network that was built during the slavery era was built almost exclusively by slaves. Some of the railroads owned slaves, other railroads hired or rented slaves from slave owners. And the most shocking thing that I found was that women, as well as men, were actually involved in the hard, dangerous, brutal work of railroad construction.
If you look at the hatred that came from the former president, using demonizing terms to define your community, in spite of all of that, you have stood up and showed America that you want to be a part of this dream, so you should not live in the shadows of the American dream. You should demand your right for your children and your families not to be victimized and harmed as you walk the streets every day.
We are clear that the incident that took place in 2014 on the stairwell of the Pink Houses was an incident that took place between two men.
A scared rookie cop recklessly shot Akai Gurley for no good reason in the stairwell of a Brooklyn housing project because he violated his hallowed duty as a police officer.
So you should not live in the shadows of the American dream. You should demand your right for your children and your families not to be victimized and harmed as you walk the streets every day.
The future depends on the commitment of two communities. And we will not allow what took place, that tragedy, to divide and separate our communities. It is too important that the Chinese community and the African American community, two communities that have historically went through very challenging and difficult times in America, to allow an incident to drive a wedge between us. The purpose of the meeting today was to send a loud message that no matter what happens at the sentencing, it will not divide our community.
Akai Gurley, an innocent victim, murdered by a rookie cop that's not being held accountable for his murder. On top of that, for the judge, for the DA, for the whole entire system, failed not only Akai Gurley, also failed Akai Gurley.
So I am here with you because as a black man in America, our history is the same history. Our fight is the same fight.
What I believe, my nephew is no longer here. Had the shoe been on the other foot, had it been a civilian, had it been Akai Gurley that shot Peter Liang, Akai Gurley would be up the river. First of all, let's be real now. Akai Gurley would be in prison from day one. He would not have gotten a chance to speak or say anything. Peter Liang took a life. It's about a human life.